This week's Parshat is Vayakhel, around Exodus 35 and 36. Today in Parshat Vayakhel, much of what we read is of the instructions and complications of building the Mishkan, the tabernacle in the wilderness. The very beginning of the Parsha actually is about remembering to observe Shabbat, and therefore to build a tabernacle in time as well as in space. Shabbat being a tabernacle in time. So the Parsha begins reminding us to observe Shabbat, therefore to build a tabernacle of time as well as a tabernacle of space. Thus, if nothing else, this is calling our attention to the teaching that there are many ways and many forms by which we build a Mishkan, a tabernacle, a place in which the Shekhinah, God's presence, can dwell. As we begin reading of the building process, we are impressed by the beauty this space is meant to reflect, and by the involvement of all the people in building such a meaningful space. So to project this, or to present this, I'm going to read in English a slightly lengthy section of it, all in chapter 35, but not all of chapter 35. This is what we read. Moses said further to the whole community of Israelites, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Take from among you gifts to the Lord. Everyone whose heart so moves him shall bring them, gifts for the Lord, gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen and goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for the ephod and the breastpiece. And let all among you who are skilled come and make all that the Lord has commanded. The tabernacle, its tent and its covering, its clasps and its planks, its bars, its posts and its sockets, the ark and its poles, the cover and the curtain for the screen, the table and its poles and all its utensils, and the bread of display, the menorah for lighting, its furnishings and its lamps, and the oil for lighting, the altar of incense and its poles, the anointing oil and the aromatic incense, and the entrance screen for the entrance of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offering, its copper grating, its poles and all its furnishings, the laver and its stand, the hangings of the enclosure, its posts and its sockets, and the screen for the gate of the court, the pegs for the tabernacle, the pegs for the enclosure and their cords, the service vestments for officiating in the sanctuary, the sacred vestments of Aaron, the priest, and the vestments for his sons for priestly service. So the whole community of the Israelites left the presence of Moses, and everyone who excelled in ability and everyone whose spirit moved him came, bringing to the Lord his offering for the work of the tent of meeting and for all its service and for the sacred vestments. Men and women, all whose hearts moved them, all who would make an elevation offering of gold to the Lord, came bringing brooches, earrings, rings, and pendants, gold objects of all kinds. And everyone who had in his possession blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, and dolphin skins, brought them. Everyone who would make gifts of silver or copper brought them as gifts for the Lord, and everyone who had in his possession acacia wood, for any work of the service brought that. And all the skilled women spun with their own hands and brought what they had spun in blue and purple and crimson yarns and in fine linen. And all the women who excelled in that skill spun the goat's hair. And the chieftains brought lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastpiece, and spices and oil for lighting, for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense. Thus the Israelites, all the men and women whose hearts moved them to bring anything for the work that the Lord through Moses had commanded to be done, brought it as a free will offering to the Lord. Kol ish ve'isha asher nadav libam otam lahavi l'chol hamlacha asher tziva Adonai la'asot b'yad Moshe hevi'u v'nei Yisrael nedava l'Adonai. It is striking in this section how much beauty is meant to be in this place. There is gold and silver and copper, stones of many colors. I especially like lapis lazuli, which is blue and at times flecked with gold. There is scarlet, blue, and purple threads, fine cloth, and tanned skins. So many things beautiful to look at by day and by artificial lighting by night, for which there is oil to burn, and there is aromatic incense for a beautiful smell. No doubt there would have been beautiful music to hear as well. And all the people would have been involved in constructing this tabernacle to the extent that their heart moved them. These materials all were offerings of the heart. The word used is nidava, akin to the word lehit nadev, which means to volunteer. People were not ordered what they would bring or how much they would bring. They were giving of their own free will, of their hearts. This was a community building exercise as well, a community building exercise which brought the people together so that they could say, Hine ma tov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad. Behold how good and how pleasant it is to be dwelling as brothers and sisters together. And we know through the experience of this congregation, which built its own building mostly with their own hands 50 years ago, that the impact upon a community of building a sacred space together can have a long-lasting bonding effect. Even after 50 years, the fact that the community was directly engaged in creating its sacred space has a bonding impact on the community. And the same for my parents' congregation, Mishkan Torah, which built its own building with their own hands 70 years ago. That too is still felt after all these years. This past week, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, at the convention of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical Association. This year marked the 50th anniversary of the founding of that organization, which literally began as a homespun organization of the graduates and faculty of the fledgling Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. Several of the original founders are still involved and were there, even as the organization itself is much bigger and more mature. But they created then an organizational mishkan, an organizational sanctuary in which the Spirit could dwell. Similarly, on a historical or personal level, when we work hard and give of ourselves to create a beautiful, lasting moment of celebration or commemoration, we are creating a form of sanctuary in memory, an element of our own story that we carry with us as a place for a sense of the sacred to dwell, that we carry with us, within us for years. Today, March 8th, happens to be the anniversary on the Western calendar of my own bar mitzvah in my parents' shul, Mishkan Torah, built by the hands of the congregation and dedicated in March 1955. In 1955, they skimped a little bit on beauty, but they went heavy on meaning. The Torah speaks of beautiful elements in the construction of the tabernacle, but it is still a simple tent. One of the elements in constructing the tabernacle is acacia wood. That is wood of the acacia tree, a tree which grows in the desert. 2 weeks ago, I was in Target. I took a shortcut through the kitchen section and saw wooden serving spoons, specifically and clearly labeled as being made with acacia wood. Acacia wood. I bought 2 of them, thinking maybe I could play them as a musical instrument for synagogue use, to bring acacia wood into the sanctuary. Playing the spoons, acacia wood. I could see perhaps decorating the handles with colored gemstones and lapis lazuli, pieces of gold and silver and copper, and tying blue, purple, and scarlet threads and ribbons to it. I could make these pieces of acacia wood so that they would resemble something from the tabernacle. Except that I don't tend to get around to art projects. Music, yes, but doing art does not always speak to my heart so directly. But different people resonate to different things, which is why our Torah portion continues reading. Moses said to the Israelites, "See, the Lord has singled out by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hor, of the tribe of Judah. God has endowed him with a divine spirit of skill, ability, and knowledge in every kind of craft, and has inspired him to make designs for work in gold, silver, and copper, to cut stones for setting and to carve wood, to work in every kind of designer's craft, and to give directions. He and Oholiob, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, have been endowed with the skill to do any work of the carver, the designer, the embroiderer in blue, purple, crimson yarns, and in fine linen, and of the weaver, as workers in all crafts and as makers of design. Let then Bezalel and Oholiab and all the skilled persons whom the Lord has endowed with skill and ability to perform expertly all the tasks connected with the service of the sanctuary carry out all that the Lord commanded." Bezalel ben Uri from the tribe of Judah has been filled with Ruach Elohim b'chochma u'v'tvuna u'v'dat u'v'chol malacha, has been filled with divine spirit in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of craftsmanship. It's interesting to me that the words are chochma, tvuna, and da'at. It's almost like chochma, bina, da'at, which is Chabad, as in Lubavitch, wisdom, understanding, knowledge. And I wonder if there is a historical and literary connection there between these 2 times, between these 2 phrases. But this is also in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of craftsmanship. There are many types of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. There are many types of intelligences, many types, places, and settings of skill, wisdom, and knowledge. Different people have different strengths and means of perception, and so also different modes of worship and celebration. Doing art, such as decorating those acacia wooden spoons, does not speak to me as much as researching the linguistic connection of Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at to the Torah text. But everyone has different avenues of connection. Everyone has different talents and gifts by which they can contribute to the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Whether it is the building of a Mishkan in space, such as a building or maintaining a building, or a Mishkan in time, such as creating holiday observances, or a Mishkan in artwork or craftsmanship, or in music, or in literary activity, or a Mishkan in memory, such as a life cycle or commemorative event that resonates across the generations. Every person has a different set of talents and gifts to bring, and a different set of access points to transcendence. Part of being wise-hearted, and that's the word that's used, chacham lev, part of being wise-hearted is knowing how to discern your own set of gifts and access points by which you too participate, contribute, connect, and worship. Be it in your art, in your music, in your woodwork, in your building maintenance, in your holiday observance, in your social justice, in your Torah study, in whatever it is that brings you alive and connects you to your spiritual life and your spiritual heritage. And as our Parsha continues, Moses then called to Betzalel and Oholiav, V'el kol ish chacham lev asher natan Adonai chochma bilbo kol asher nasu libo lekarva el hamlacha lasot oto. Moses then called to Betzalel and Oholiab, to every wise-hearted person to whom God gave wisdom in their heart, and every skilled person whom the Lord had endowed with skill, everyone who excelled in ability to undertake the task and to carry it out. They took over from Moses all the gifts that the Israelites had brought to carry out the tasks connected with the service of the sanctuary. But when these continued to bring free will offerings to him morning after morning, all the artisans who were engaged in the tasks of the sanctuary came, each from the task upon which he was engaged, and said to Moses, "The people are bringing more than is needed for the tasks entailed in the work that the Lord has commanded to be done." Moses thereupon had this proclamation made throughout the camp: "Let no man or woman make further effort towards gift for the sanctuary." So the people stopped bringing. Their efforts had been more than enough for all the tasks to be done. Moses proclaimed that the bringing the offerings should be stopped. Ultimately, what the people did was enough, and they could stop, and it was acceptable, good, and right. Perhaps today, many Jews don't recognize that the gifts they have to bring and the gifts they do bring are enough. But remarkably, the Torah tells us to be wise of heart and know that when we give of ourselves, our gifts are acceptable, good, and right. So the people stopped bringing. Their efforts had been more than enough for all the tasks to be done. Shabbat Shalom.